The film opens on a tense, chaotic scene as brothers Thomas and Robert flee through a field. They are pursued by a group of men, and in the ensuing firefight Robert is shot and falls seemingly dead. Thomas escapes, but not before witnessing a final desperate plea from his brother before a building explodes. Later, a weary and hardened Thomas is shown alone coming across a river. He encounters a talkative stranger who reveals that a huge reward has been offered for the capture of a man who killed a Rockefeller, a man whom the stranger and his companions intend to collect. The stranger recognizes Thomas and another firefight erupts. Thomas manages to kill his attackers and continues his journey. He eventually arrives in a small isolated town called Redemption. The town is a haven for outlaws and fugitives, a place where people with dark pasts come to hide and live under a fragile unspoken truce. He is vetted by the town's leader, a stoic and pragmatic man named Jericho, and is accepted into their fold. Life in Redemption is peaceful, and Thomas finds a sense of belonging among the other wanted individuals, each with their own story of survival and escape from a past that haunts them. The town has a system in place to protect its residents. They all pretend to be dead and have graves marked for them, so when lawmen come looking they find a supposedly deceased person and move on. The tranquility is shattered when a woman, Valerie, and her young daughter Grace arrive in town asking for Thomas Keller. Valerie is determined to find him, and the townspeople, wary of outsiders and suspicious of her intentions, lie and tell her that Thomas is dead. She is told to check his grave on the edge of town. Valerie and her hired men dig up the grave, but instead of a body they find the remains of a coyote, a ruse meant to fool lawmen. When she and her men realize they have been lied to, a violent confrontation ensues and the townsfolk are forced to defend their secrets. Meanwhile, Thomas and his new friend Lynn are away from town chopping wood. Bella, a townswoman, rides out to warn them of Valerie's presence and the impending danger. She explains that the woman is looking for Thomas and that the town's fragile peace is at risk. She says that a large posse is coming to town and that Thomas is the cause of it all, so he must stay hidden as per the town rules. Jericho reinforces this, wanting to protect everyone in Redemption. Back in town, the posse led by an imposing and ruthless man named Robert arrives. Robert, who has the backing of a powerful figure from New York, has come to collect the massive bounty on Thomas Keller. In the saloon, Robert confronts Jericho and the townsfolk, revealing his knowledge of their identities and their wanted status. He knows that Thomas is the one who killed a Rockefeller and offers a deal: hand over Thomas and he will leave the rest of them alone. He even taunts them with a coyote head, proving he knows their secret. The townsfolk are torn between protecting one of their own and saving their own lives. Robert gives them a time limit to decide, and some begin to question their loyalty to Thomas. The situation escalates into a violent standoff. Valerie, who is also in the saloon, recognizes Robert, but not as the man who leads the posse. She reveals a shared history with him, hinting at a deep, painful past. During the chaos, Robert finds Valerie and Grace, and it is revealed that Robert is Valerie's husband and Grace's father. He is the brother Thomas thought he had left for dead, though he has come back for vengeance and the bounty on Thomas's head. Thomas, unable to sit idly by while his friends are in danger, rides back into town to confront Robert. The two brothers finally face off. Robert reveals his hatred for Thomas, accusing him of trying to save him his whole life and blaming him for leaving him for dead. Thomas tries to reason with him, but Robert is blinded by rage and greed. He threatens Valerie and Grace, forcing Thomas to make a choice. Robert gives the townsfolk one last chance to abandon Thomas and save themselves, but in a display of unexpected loyalty they refuse to betray him. They stand with Thomas, prepared to fight for their sanctuary and their friend. The movie ends with the townspeople of Redemption, a collection of outlaws and fugitives united against a common enemy, ready to defend their fragile existence and the man who brought danger to their doorstep. The final act of the movie opens with the townsfolk of Redemption, a motley crew of outlaws and fugitives, bracing for the inevitable confrontation with Robert and his posse. As a storm rages, they prepare their defenses, united by a shared purpose. Thomas, back in the saloon, reconnects with Valerie, who reveals the painful truth of her past with Robert. She explains that Robert's near-fatal burns were a result of their failed escape, and that the powerful Rockefeller family, hell-bent on revenge, has funded his hunt for Thomas. She confesses that she rode with Robert for a time before stealing his horse to warn Thomas, a revelation that solidifies her loyalty to him. Meanwhile, Robert, growing impatient, calls out to the saloon, giving the innocent patrons a final chance to flee before the bloodshed begins. A few people leave, but the majority stay, choosing to stand by the wanted men of Redemption. The standoff erupts into a violent and chaotic battle. Gunfire and explosions tear through the town as the posse attacks the saloon. The outlaws fight with desperation, each using their unique skills to defend their sanctuary. As the fighting rages, Valerie and her daughter Grace try to escape through a back window, but Thomas refuses to abandon the others and she is forced to go back into hiding. The battle is brutal and the townsfolk suffer injuries, but they continue to fight with fierce determination. After a long and punishing fight, Robert calls a truce, offering Thomas a seemingly impossible deal: come back to New York, face the gallows, and Robert will arrange for a double to be hanged in his place, allowing Thomas to escape and start a new life with his family. However, Thomas doesn't trust him, pointing out that Robert has already broken his word by attacking the town after promising to leave the innocent patrons alone. The two brothers' final confrontation is a tense mix of sibling rivalry and mutual grief. Robert admits he cannot kill Thomas because of a childhood promise, but also reveals he cannot go back to New York without him. He tries to convince Thomas they can be rich men and start over, but Thomas rejects the offer, saying his life in New York is over and he won't be running anymore. He also rejects the notion of killing Robert, opting to defend himself and the town. As the battle intensifies, another member of Robert's posse, Kelly, attempts to betray Robert and turn in Thomas for the reward, but is shot and killed by Robert for his disloyalty. In a desperate final act of cruelty, Robert captures Valerie and Grace. He reveals a shocking secret to Thomas: Grace is not his daughter but Thomas's. He had assumed Thomas would be too afraid to go back for Valerie, but when he learned he was wrong, his anger and obsession grew. In a final twisted act, Robert gives Thomas an ultimatum: kill himself and save his daughter or watch her die. Thomas refuses, and in a heart-wrenching moment Robert aims his gun at Grace. He fires, but it is not at the girl. He aims at Thomas's chest and takes a shot. As Robert lowers his gun, Valerie and Grace are safe while Thomas is not. Robert is then immediately shot and killed by an unseen character. The final scene shows the aftermath of the battle. The saloon is in ruins and the townsfolk are left to pick up the pieces. Hoodoo, the goofy outlaw, and Doc are seen helping each other, joking about the near-death experience. The other survivors emerge bruised but alive, sharing a drink and a laugh in the morning light. The movie ends with a scene of Hoodoo in a new town gambling and recounting his tale of collecting the biggest bounty ever. He is joined by Doc and Kid, who sit down to play poker. As they begin the game, they reveal their pistols, their wanted posters hanging nearby, and Hoodoo realizes that they too are outlaws. He then realizes that all of the men he is playing poker with are outlaws, and they all draw their weapons. The final scene shows the men celebrating a successful heist, and the film ends with a final shot of the outlaws toasting their victory. The climax of the film unfolds with a tense standoff as the storm rages, mirroring the turmoil within Redemption's walls. The outlaws, united by their shared predicament, prepare for the battle to come. Robert, growing impatient, issues a final ultimatum to the saloon patrons: flee now or die with the fugitives. Most of the townspeople, having found a sense of community and loyalty, choose to stay and fight. The ensuing battle is a symphony of chaos. Gunfire and explosions rip through the night as the townsfolk, each with their own unique fighting style, defend their home. Injured but unyielding, they push back against the posse. Valerie and her daughter Grace, caught in the crossfire, try to escape, but Thomas, ever the protector, refuses to abandon his new allies. As the battle intensifies, Robert's obsession with Thomas takes center stage. He offers a deceptive truce, promising Thomas a chance to escape the gallows if he returns to New York, but Thomas sees through the lie. The confrontation turns deeply personal as Robert reveals the truth: Gracie is not his daughter but Thomas's. Driven by a vengeful rage, Robert forces Thomas into an impossible choice: his own life for Gracie's. In a shocking twist, Robert shoots Thomas, but instead of killing him, he aims for his chest. He falls to the ground seemingly dead, only to be saved by an unseen ally who shoots Robert. In the aftermath, the town of Redemption is left in shambles. The survivors, a mix of injured outlaws and townspeople, emerge from the wreckage, their bonds forged in fire. They share a drink, a moment of reprieve and the knowledge that they survived. The final scenes show Hoodoo now in a new town, boasting about his exploits and newfound wealth. He sits down to a poker game only to be joined by Doc and Kid, revealing they are also outlaws. They all toast to their victory. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.